So I'd like to introduce you to Plenary 10, which is a plenary presentation by Professor Marwala on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So Professor Marwala is an accomplished scholar with multidisciplinary research interests that include the theory and application of artificial intelligence to engineering, computer science, finance, social science, and medicine. He has an extensive track record in human capacity development and has published 23 books on artificial intelligence. Professor Marwala is the Vice-Chancellor and the Principal of the University of Johannesburg, and prior to this role, he was the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Industrialization and the Executive Dean of the Engineering and Built Environment, both at the University of Johannesburg. He was the Deputy Chair of the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So now Professor Marwala is going to give us a presentation on the impact of the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Within the next 10 years, Rosam's universal robots will produce so much wheat, so much cloth, so much everything that things will no longer have any value. Everyone will be able to take as much as he needs. There will be no more poverty. Yes, people will be out of work, but by then, there will be no work left to be done. Everything will be done by living machines. People will do only what they enjoy. They will live only to perfect themselves. Close quote. This is an excerpt from Karel Capek's 1921 novel, R.U.R. Rosam's Universal Robots. Although Capek's seminal work of fiction went on to paint a grim picture of a robot rebellion, as many in the genre tend to do, it began by echoing the capabilities that we envision for artificial intelligence. Before I instill any new founded fears in any of you, Capek's conception of a robot, which incidentally introduced the word to the English language, was not like any of the technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution we see today. It was, however, an important lesson on what we could achieve if we correctly harness technology. As Isaac Asimov wrote in Asimov on Science Fiction, it is change, continuing change, inevitable change, that is the dominant factor in society today. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. This, in turn, means that our statesmen, our businessmen, our everyman must take on a science-fictional way of thinking, close quote. The 4IR, though representative of the entire wave of digital transformation, is predicated largely on AI. This is an era when intelligent technologies permeate all aspects of our lives, be they in the economy, society, and politics, which is envisioned to potentially grow economies exponentially and could be the key to finding solutions to some of our most deep-seated problems. Why is this? As an Accenture report explains, AI can replicate labor activities at much greater scale and speed, and to even perform some tasks beyond the capabilities of humans. Not to mention that in some areas, it has the ability to learn faster than humans. Kathleen Walsh, a managing partner at AI research firm Cognilytica, said, and I quote, "What makes AI as a technology sector different from previous major waves of investment is that AI is seen as strategic technology by many governments." In fact, the leading global players in digital technologies have established entire AI blueprints. While the other technologies are certainly important, they all work in tandem with AI. Recent reports indicate AI investment will reach an all-time high, with even traditional industries jumping on board. In South Africa, we have developed our own national strategy that responds in particular to our challenges of unemployment and a deepening economic crisis. Through human capacity development programs and resuscitation of our manufacturing sector, for instance, our strategy aims at reviving the economy in an inclusive manner. Of course, the vast improvements in AI have underlined this strategy. Over the last year, we have seen instances of AI used to fight the pandemic, address health concerns, and even provide solutions to loneliness as national lockdowns began to take a toll on mental health. It is becoming increasingly apparent that AI can be used to address some of our most challenging problems. I would be remiss if I did not reference the warnings AI has long been accompanied by. From science fiction novels and movies to the likes of Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk, warnings have been sounded over the fast path of AI and the potential to destroy the human race. What I think, however, is often overlooked in these conversations is the potential for AI to create a more equitable and just landscape for humans. For instance, last year, DeepMind announced that it has cracked what is referred to as a 50-year-old scientific riddle. It had solved the protein folding problem. In other words, it can determine a protein's 3D shape from its amino acid sequence, making it easier to develop treatments for a range of diseases from cancer to the coronavirus. To do this, researchers trained the DeepMind algorithm on a public database which contained about 170,000 protein sequences and their shapes over a few weeks, running the equivalent of 100 to 200 graphics processing units. In recent years, DeepMind has been most recognized for its ability to beat human beings in games such as Go or Atari Classics. These were, in a sense, testing grounds for ultimately solving real-world problems. Elsewhere, OpenAI GPT-3, which was launched last year, uses deep learning neural networks which are capable of learning and understanding contextual relationships between words in a text. This system can produce its own output from short stories to even writing code. In another example, IBM, in collaboration with the Carey Institute, have developed a machine learning technique to help stop the spread of the deadly Zika virus using physiological, behavioral range, and social structure data. To speak specifically to the African context, we have seen various instances of AI as a tool to solve social issues. For example, in Rwanda, the government has collaborated with US startup Zipline to deliver blood supplies by drone to remote areas. Where a journey would have taken 3 hours by car, a drone can complete the trip in 6 minutes, addressing the need for emergency medical supplies in rural areas. In Kenya, the Third Eye project uses RGB cameras and near-infrared cameras mounted on the drones to surveil and diagnose the plants for pests and diseases, water stress, and nutrient deficiencies. This requires a combination of historical data and the use of AI. In Uganda, a biomedical smart jacket is helping doctors diagnose pneumonia faster, allowing them to see more patients. In Nigeria, a machine learning messaging platform capable of translating over 2,000 African languages was developed. These are just some existing developments. There is scope to incorporate digital technology in every sphere of society to improve lives. As a 2018 McKinsey discussion paper entitled Applying Artificial Intelligence for Social Good contents, existing capabilities could contribute to tackling cases across all 17 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, potentially helping hundreds of millions of people in both advanced and emerging countries, close quote. However, as we continue to explore the opportunities presented by AI, we must heed the advice of those who remain wary. As Musk warned, and I quote, "I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish," close quote. Thus, a crucial conversation we must have around AI for societal good is how we create ethical AI systems. Despite the impressive results offered by AI, some serious ethical issues need to be tackled. If you look at some of the biggest AI companies, they all have a set of rules and ethical considerations set out. Essentially, and to be a little sensationalist, to avoid the robots taking over or a full-scale AI war, AI needs to be aligned with existing human values. How do we create AI systems that are beneficial to society? Microsoft will tell you that its AI principles are predicated on fairness, inclusiveness, reliability, safety, transparency, privacy, security, and accountability. Despite AI mimicking human thinking, humans still need to remain in control of AI so that they do what we want them to do. Yet, how do we ensure that this, and how do we agree on a set of ethical principles? While there is an agreement that transparency, justice, and fairness, non-maleficence, responsibility, as well as privacy are the core ethical principles, the meaning of these principles differs, particularly across countries and cultures. Ultimately, ethical AI has to be done in collaboration with all stakeholders in society, ranging from government and the private sector to those in academia. According to Accenture, states need to set up an AI advisory body. There needs to be collaboration internationally to ensure these codes are comprehensive, core ethical principles need to be developed, and sectors must have industry-specific ethics. As Capek rightly predicted, and has long been echoed after him, the robots are coming. As our trajectory so far has demonstrated, they aren't quite the sinister figures we have been taught to fear. In fact, it seems to be just the opposite. These robots are addressing our healthcare concerns, bridging our linguistic and cultural gaps, and laying down the foundations for a more equitable world. That is not to say that there is no room for the misuse of AI. The trick, of course, is for us to continue to harness AI for good, and for us to create a set of regulations that ensure that the doom and gloom of science fiction stays just that, fiction. As the tech buff Sudipto Ghosh reminds us, artificial intelligence is not a man versus machine saga. It is, in fact, man with machine synergy. I thank you. Ngiyabonga. Bayadanki. Kialiwa.
So we'd like to thank Professor Marwala for starting this debate, and we'll continue a discussion in relation to the fourth industrial revolution tomorrow in the next generation computing sessions. And on Thursday, we have another presentation related to the fourth industrial revolution.